Welcome to the Bookworm Bindery with Cathy-Lynn. It is Finish It Friday. So this is the third Friday I've done this, and I have to say, there's the saying of time flies when you're having fun, and you had no idea you were having so much fun. I find that really to be true in some sort of way. But the other thing is that I have so many things that I could do today that I could probably do a 12-hour marathon and probably finish what I have worked on this week. So 2 weeks ago, I was making book board, cutting, and getting the book basic front and back covers and spines put together and getting them covered with fabrics. And then this past week I was cutting papers and making decisions whether I'm making lined papers and which books I'm doing art books out of. The art books have lined paper for notes, they have grid paper for drawing perspectives, and then they have art paper, mostly a multimedia art paper that's not watercolor. I can do watercolor. Those are usually done on custom orders. And just kind of figuring all of that sort of thing out. So I now probably have about 8 books ready to have their papers put in. And I started putting the papers in this yesterday. I pulled the papers together for this junk journal. It is a small size junk journal, although it's a little kind of off size. My small books are 5 by 4, and this one is 5 by 5 and 1/8. It was just some odd size offcuts, and I looked at it and I had some kind of pretty wide pieces that could be used for spine, and I thought, oh, this is a great size for a small junk journal. I usually do large junk journals, so it's nice to have an odd sized one out here or there, a medium one. Or so anyway, I just picked up a bunch of papers that I had sitting on my desk, and I had a whole packet of medical papers. I'd had a lovely rendezvous with the emergency room a couple of months ago, and I got my discharge papers, but then there were all of these literally 11 sheets of paper, really nice quality paper, by the way, and they were all printed one-sided, and it was on just basic information on your gut. So I looked at those and I thought, I don't need this, and I just put them down on a pile on this work table, and I took them and I ran them through the printer so that they had something interesting on them. In this case, the back side had this pretty stuff on the plain, and then on the word side I did a bunch of stencils. I got some new stamps. Actually, they're stamps. So I got some new stamps, and so here we had the printing on the word side, and then more printing. So I played with it. So some of them have print, some of them have stencils, some of them, just are kind of a combination. Anyways, in other words, I had junk paper, and so I turned it into some interesting paper to put in this. And then I pulled, just some other odds and ends. I ended up putting vellum, 5 different, so this will have 5 signatures in it. So 5 pieces of vellum. 3 of them were pieces that had already been cut into, so I was able to kind of use those scraps, and then I took a couple of new ones. So for signature covers, we have vellum. This is going to be just an eclectic combination of things for junk journaling. Just kind of, I don't remember what this was for. It was instructions on something. I have no idea. prepaid card. Yeah, so instructions on how to use a prepaid card for some such, and just came up with some fun things. Okay, so enough is enough is enough. I still have 2 signatures to sew in to get this finished up. Now, what you can't see, and I'm going to carefully move you around, is the mess on my desk of things. You know, some of them are just kind of live here. But in this case, all of these papers here were cut-offs from what's in this journal. So some of those will be made into pockets, etc. Over here I had laces that I want to put on. And I'm not going to go through all of that with you. The project is finishing getting book pages in books. But when I do that, I am going to put a piece of lace across the top. And I'm going to pull a piece of ribbon to hook onto this to tie around to close this thing up with. So to the project at hand, what I am doing here is sewing these in. Now, my books, oh, I don't want to take that open. My books are hardbound, and a lot of times, most of the time, I use the Crocodile Big Bite to punch the holes in my spines, and I often use them to poke holes in my pages. But this junk journal doesn't have as many pages as I put in a regular journal, so I don't have as many to poke through, and so I'm just using my needle and thread. This gives me a finer hole in these inside pages. It looks a little nicer, I think. And so basically what I'm going to do here and now is I'm going to kind of get this, maybe. It's getting too thick with the other pages that are in there, so I'll just hook them to the other pages. So just need to stabilize this. This is not a step that I feel I need to do when I have poked the holes with the Crocodile in the signature. But when I am poking the needle through the page, I could preset the hole, but my preference is to not do that. So, okay, let's get this kind of lined up here. Good. Okay. And I've already cut my threads. So, in starting up and working on this again, things are kind of set up from when I was working on it previously, which was just yesterday. I started this one last evening. Okay. I don't know if this is just too close to you, if I'm making you sick to your stomach, and if I am, I apologize. Okay. So the needle I'm using is a yarn needle. It's a nice big hole. Makes it easy to put the waxed linen thread through with. Okay, there's that one. So once this is set up, this part of the project does tend to go fairly quickly. Okay, in through the hole, but not through the thread. And then hopefully in through the hole, but not through the thread. You know, there was a funny meme that somebody sent me on in my messages yesterday, the day before, and it kind of went following along the lines of, as a child growing up, I thought there would be a lot more quicksand in my life, and when I first started doing this, everybody that I watched and the courses that I took online were always, okay, now be really careful not to go through your threads, and it happens, and you have to be, kind of careful, and then you just pull it out if you go through the thread. And the first time, probably the 5th or 6th book I did, I'm not bragging, just giving you the facts. When I pulled one thread up, I'd gone through the other. So I just took the needle off and I worked it out and I tied it off. And I was like, well, I thought that would be harder. Okay, so square knot. Unless you drop it. So right over left, pull that pretty tight. Left over right, makes a knot, square and tight. This is probably something I learned in brownies or juniors when I was in Girl Scouts, right? Elementary school. I do one more time, just in case. So my litany goes, right over left, left over right, makes a knot that's square and tight. One more time, just in case. I started doing that with my serger. Oh, having to thread sergers is just a nightmare. When you don't like to thread your machine anyway, then it becomes a big problem. So when I'm changing my threads, that is how I get my threads to go through. 90% of the time it works. The other times, I do it again and I cry. Yes, I do. I admit it. Okay. So, now what I did with this, I had 3 envelopes that I sewed into the signatures. So I put those every other signature, and then I had 2 of these kind of fun and interesting pages that fold out, because I was going to cut them. I mean, they were originally folded, but they came into the middle too far. But I always think it's kind of cool when I see creators do this, and then I never remember to do it myself. So when I saw this piece of paper already folded 4 times, I cut it in half and I inked it. And I figured in here could be added writing pages or other interesting kind of ephemera, pockets, glued stuff in, what have you. Okay, so get this taken care of. Just love that vellum. Okay, and then the last one. So each of the pockets is somewhat different, and 2 of them are white, I think. One of them's red. I just went over to the shelving unit I have. It's a built-in shelving unit that my dad made years ago. I've moved back into my family home some years ago, and I have this wondrous, great big built-in bookshelf, and it holds so much stuff. It's great. Okay. And I just pulled out the biggest envelopes that I saw sitting there, and I was able to use, well, there was more than the 3, but I only wanted 3. Okay. I'm scooching this a little bit at a time through this to get them right where the holes are, so that I don't have any weird, offset stuff. You do have to make sure that they're right side up. I mean, everybody tells you that, and you know it if you do this. So what I did was I clipped them in the back so that I knew that the clip went on my right hand side and that was the back. And that made sure that I was putting these in right side up. You only have to put it in upside down, any signature upside down once or twice, and you learn. Because then you just have to take it out and re-sew it. But if you kind of did it upside down the whole time, the holes that you punched aren't in the right place. Yeah. Ah, the woes of a bookmaker. In this case, we're not really looking at this style. It's not really first world problems if we're going back and doing styles that have been not really used commercially in a couple of 100 years. But I suspect, like lots of other creators on YouTube, We were looking for things to do during the Great Plague. Okay, behave yourself. Okay, that's good. And I've always wanted to do making books. Always, since I was a kid. Love books. When I was in college, I went to the community college for the first 2 years, and I should have taken the bus more often. I had a 67 Mustang that I used to joke got... Sorry, I'm trying not to poke myself, but try to poke through the hole. And the needle doesn't want to go through, so I'm probably missing it. Missing the hole. There we go. Anyways, got about 13 miles to the gallon, but I used to joke all the time and say that I got about 13 gallons to the mile. And school was about 35 miles away. Maybe not quite that far, but close. And so I would drive up and park in a parking lot and hop the bus. And as I was going to school every day, there was a printing company, a small business, and it said that they did printing projects of all sizes, and they bound books, and I was like, oh, that's what I want to do. And yeah, see, went through that, just picked up probably one fiber. So now I just need to separate them a little bit and pull that out. There we go. It happens. It happens more when I poke the holes with a needle than when I use the big bite to poke the holes big. Because the threads are much closer together in a small hole than they have to be in a large hole. And for a hole punch, it is pretty small, but comparatively, it's really big. So here we are, right over left. Left over right. Makes a knot that's square and tight. One more time, just in case. So I'm not going to cut these threads because I never know if somebody is going to want charms on the bottoms of these. And when I am taking these to a craft show or what have you, if I have a book event, I just have the charms with me, and then if people want charms, they can purchase charms and put them in. Sometimes I just put the charms on because I'm like, nope, this is my decision, knowing that if somebody doesn't want the charms, they can take them off. But if they don't want the charms, it's quite easy to go in and snip this. You just want to come up about 1/4 of an inch away from the knot, and then the threads will end up just kind of laying down to the side, and you'll never really notice those little pokey outy things. Okay, so that is done, and I can put these little guys away. All right, so now let's move you down here. Everybody down here. And I often try to make my ends even, but sometimes I fail. And I don't trim them up because you never know. Somebody might want short ones and then long ones. You get to pick. You can cut them off. Okay, so now all 5 signatures are in. There are not the same papers in every one. There's a piece of lined paper that was from something in every one. This is the only one that has a coloring page. And that was primarily because this music sheet it was in the middle, and it was plain. It's like, I don't know, maybe it was the index or the table of contents, and it was more boring than boring. And I thought, I'll just stick a coloring page in. I like using coloring pages, and I put them in often, but this one didn't have any, now it does. So yeah, the other one was not, it was worse. I don't know what kind of worse would mean for something you're going to cover up with things anyway, but anyway, so there we have it. And I don't intend to do a lot of decorating. I'm going to put in a few pockets, but this will not be a packed journal. This will simply be a junk journal ready for somebody to play with. Now, I have this antique lace. It's not even vintage. It's antique lace. And it's, I'm pretty sure, been put on something and taken off. And it has its own charms due to that. So it has a little stain here. I washed it and it did not lighten or come out. I thought about tea dyeing the whole thing, but I really liked it on this fabric. This has round flowers like that, and it has pointies like this, and I just felt it fit. The other thing I liked about it being white is that it really pops this pale blue background out. So I have, in addition to this, I have some laces that I'm going to put inside, and they're white, cream, and black. I have no dark blue, but what I saw with the black was how it made this dark blue pop out as dark blue. So this is going to get glued along here, and once it is set into place, then I'm going to come down and just glue these little points. Trying not to glue the threads, because sometimes people want to remove a signature. Maybe something happened and they don't like it, or it got damaged, or what have you. And get these little pokey things. Sorry, there's a little aside here. From the, the big bite thing, paper hole thing. Doesn't happen the first 2 or 3 times you use it, and then after that, it's a free-for-all. It doesn't like cutting through fabric. I don't blame it. Okay, so let's see what we've got here. Anyway, so if somebody needed or wanted, sometimes want is as important as need, to be able to remove signatures, I kind of like to have the threads for the signatures removable. It doesn't always happen. So I'll tell people, now this one you can't do that. And by the time I'm finished with that, that may be what I be saying to the person who buys this. So sorry for you. Okay, so that's gonna dry. So this is the sweet Sugar Bell, I think, icing thing that Pam at the Paper Outpost has used in the past. If she's not using it now, I think she still is. So this was her idea, and she this has got Fabrifix in it, which she recommended, but I already had, because Beacon also makes Fabri-Tac, but it doesn't. This dries faster. It grabs just a little quicker, and it dries a little faster. I've used Fabri-Tac for gluing on patches, or scouting badges, or rhinestones and jewels. Didn't really like it, but my fabric store didn't carry the Fabrifix, only the Fabri-Tac. And then I found it on Amazon at some point. It's like, yay. Okay. This would have been nice if this book was 1/8 of an inch wider, because then I could have, well, quarter, could have kept that. But it isn't, and I can't. And, whoa. Baby, let's get you out of there. Okay, let's start by cutting you off carefully. Don't know what else I'm going to do with that. Yeah, I'll just, I hate it when it starts bubbling up like that. I do find that when we're in the midst of, stop that, you, barometric pressure changes, that bubbling up happens a lot. And of course, lying it down means that it's going to happen quicker. But I like to leave it laying down, because then it's ready to be picked up. So let me see if I can get some of that pressure out of there. Ugh, it sort of glued it to itself. Okay, let's do this one again. Settle yourself down. Okay. Nope. Okay, I just wipe that off with a it was a dry baby wipe that I'd used when I was stenciling yesterday. Okay. All right. So basically, other than the tacking down that's going to happen now, you always have to do that very carefully and hope that you don't actually cut the fabric. I did that once. It was on my own book. I was actually adding signatures into a journal that I keep, and yeah, did a little snip, something like that. Whoops. Okay, so this basically finishes the construction of this book and is going to finish up this video because I have, careful, careful, careful there. Yep, I think I'm good. This one's going to be tight. Oh, well, I guess it helps if you put the glue down under where the trim is sitting. So yeah, this is the finish it up. Yeah, I am gonna do a little bit inside, like I'd said, not much. And I'm just gonna pull a piece of narrow grosgrain ribbon to tie that with. So this one gets to go out for sale shortly. So I do flip throughs of junk journals that I've packed, but when it is a starter journal, which is what I call this, so it's got the papers, it'll have a few pockets, it'll have a little bit of ribbon, but it's not done. It's not, it's ready for you to come in and do type of a thing. There. Then I tend not to do flip throughs. So I had kind of flipped through it, showing you some of the stuff that was inside. Need to do a little extra glue here and a trim. This is kind of one of those places where, like I said, I'm pretty sure this was stitched onto something. And a few of these loops are broken. So I'll just trim them up. I have a couple of other pieces of vintage lace I'm putting on, and then a piece of new lace. So this is, like I said, kind of an eclectic combination. It is not an all-out vintage journal. Stay. But it does have some vintage paperwork in it, papers. It has some vintage lace, and it has this lovely piece of antique lace that is now on the book. Ta-da! So there you go. And here's the book. The fastest flip through on history, in history. Okay, there we go. So if you have stuck around, thanks so much. If you have already subscribed and hit the bell, then theoretically you got the notice for this. If not, and you'd like to get those notifications and you haven't subscribed yet, please do so. If you've subscribed and you're not getting notifications, make sure you've hit the bell, and it'll have a drop down, and just hit all. It'll just give you all of the stuff. It gives you other choices. I'm not sure what they are, because anytime I hit a bell for somebody I'm following, I just hit all because. So there we go. So thank you for coming and playing, and I hope you have fun with your crafts. Thanks. Bye.